I'm Linda from Linda Thomas Eco Design, and I'm an eco fashion designer specialising in upcycling. So that means rather than recycling when things are getting broken down, I take things up to the next level, hence upcycling. So I normally specialise in upcycling luxurious materials like silk and nice things like that, but then about a year ago I started making ocean waste dresses and hit the headlines with the Wave of Waste dress, which was made from 100 dumped bodyboards from just 3 Cornish beaches. This is now my 4th ocean waste project, and this is made from Ghostnet. So what is Ghostnet? Ghostnet is basically fishing net, and also it can be other fishing tackles from the fishing industry that have ended up left in the sea, either deliberately or accidentally, so that they're no longer attached to the fishing vessel anymore. And it's when the net is loose from the fishing vessel, it is still there in the sea and it still traps creatures, but there's no fisherman to haul it back in. So what happens is bigger predators come and try and eat the fish that are trapped in the ghost net, and they then get caught themselves. Eventually then they get trapped and die, and it sinks to the bottom. So you get this mass of the ghost net that's down at the bottom of the sea. And when that's fully broken down, the net, which is plastic, has not broken down, and it floats back up again, and the process happens all over again. So that's why this is such a major problem. So making this Ghostnet dress began really with a vision. So first of all I went, uh-oh, I think I'm going to make a Ghostnet dress yet, and then I had a vision of what I was going to do. This had been triggered by finding a very enormous piece of Ghostnet which I thought would make a fantastic dress. Actually, I didn't use that in the end because it was so heavy. It actually would have been quite impossible for a model to, or anybody to walk wearing this dress. So then I thought of gillnet instead, which is what this is. So basically I needed to gather this material first of all. So I often pick up Ghostnet when I'm doing beach cleans, but it's normally in a condition of lots and lots of little pieces and wouldn't be terribly attractive on a dress. So I liaised with an organisation called Fathomsfree, run completely by volunteers, and these are a group of divers who actually go down and rescue this stuff from the sea floor. And they actually let me look at their nets that they'd brought up and choose, so hence why I was able to come up with an actual colour scheme rather than just a dress of kind of muddy grey colours like a lot of the ghost net that I drag up. So having gathered that, I then needed to clean it and then unpick all the little bits of stuff off the net, and then I began by making all of these individual coils of Ghostnet. So these are all made by weaving very carefully and slowly, and each one I tended to make about one a day. Sometimes I had a good day and I made a lot more, but it's a very painstaking process because I got a little bit obsessional about how it was going to look, and so I wanted the stitching to be really contrasting and neat. So I made all of these first of all, and then after I'd got those, I then sewed together to make the bodice. The skirt of the dress is made almost entirely from gillnet, and this has been probably the most heartbreaking part of making this dress, because as I started to attach this gillnet onto the rest of the dress, I tripped up about every 5 minutes. My feet got caught in this, and it wasn't hard for me to imagine the impact that this stuff has on animals when this is left floating in the sea. Each individual part of this is very narrow, and I actually sewed the whole of the skirt on with just a single thread. So it's very strong. The whole of this dress, the connection of this skirt to the bodice, is with a single line of that, and yet it's so heavy, and if it gets caught default on you, it just pulls and pulls and pulls. So as with all of the dresses that I make, the idea of the education is that we can all do something about it. At first thoughts, if you're not a fisherman, you might think, well, what can I do about Ghostnet? There's 3 things we need to do in terms of tackling this issue. And the first is we need to stop more of this getting into the ocean, and this is really, really crucial, and we need to talk about this and take real action internationally. The second issue is about what happens to the Ghostnet that is already there. Now, this is a major problem, and around the world you may have heard about there's been a big boom that's gone out that's going to try and mop up some of this plastic. In terms of what they can do, they think over 5 years they might be able to mop up about 50% of it. So that's a massive, massive improvement, but we need more of that. So in terms of marine mammals, a single piece of Ghostnet could be responsible for 20-30 marine animals being killed. And every single time you get some of this out of the sea, you could be saving numerous lives. And the third thing is 650,000 plus tons of this stuff. What are we going to do? Move it from the sea into landfill? I don't think that's a good option either. What we need to do is start using, when we are having plastic, to use recycled stuff. And so, yes, you're not going to start making Ghostnet dresses like this, but swimsuits, for instance, can be made from something called econyl, and that has got a percentage of Ghostnets in it. You've also got companies that are trying some really radical solutions, like making kayaks from Ghostnet. So we need to start thinking, how are we going to use this stuff that's come out? So these are the 3 things that I think are really important for this issue. So I've been working on this Ghostnet dress for 6 months now, and it's time for it to go out into the world. So I'm really hoping that I'll be able to get this to go to a lot of different venues and places where people can actually see it close up. You know, how many of us get to see what a gillnet actually looks like, to experience that? We probably all have a memory somewhere of a different kind of fishing tackle that we maybe saw years ago or in a museum, and I think it would be really great the more places that this dress can go out on tour and people to actually see it and understand the issue, so that we can tackle this, because it really needs to get tackled now, not in 10 years, 20 years. This is a very, very urgent issue for our environment and the well-being of us and all the other creatures that we share this planet with.